I wanted to share something today that literally rocked my world. And it brings the whole like awakening field and spiritual awakening field down to one simple statement. And, on here, on these apps, there's so many stories, there's so many processes, there's so many things that are saying this is the path, this is the way. And it's cool, right? Because there's a flavor for everybody. But sometimes it gets complicated. Sometimes there gets to be so many stories. Sometimes our heads are spinning, like which energy healer should we go to? What sound should we make? Where should we be focused? This simple statement just kind of sums it all up. Now, of course, continue to play in the fields that you want to play in, but as I've been awakening and going through life, and now at 53, I've noticed that the further I get on my awakening journey and the deeper healing of the shadow work I do, the simpler it gets. So I'm trained as a holy fire Reiki master. I'm trained as a metaphysical minister and an advanced sound therapist and a yoga therapist and energy worker. And so I've got a lot of avenues that I've played in. And this one statement, wow, just put it all to rest and put everything in perspective. So do you want to hear it? Of course you do. Okay, here it is. Everything is either love or a cry for love. That's it. Everything that's happening is either love or a cry for love. And anything outside of that statement where you're trying to analyze or judge something takes you out of that love paradigm, out of that paradigm of awakening, and into interpreting it from the past. So anytime we're trying to analyze, which means that a lot of where we play in the psychology field of things, a lot of form and structure and definitions and analyzations and things like that in psychology are really keeping us a little stuck in the past, because anytime we're analyzing or judging or interpreting something, that's coming from the lower mind and the ego and the pain body that wants to keep figuring it out, keep having validation, keep having it make sense linearly. God, I have been there a lot lately. And I heard this today. Everything, every contrast, everything you're experiencing in relationships, whether you're receiving or giving, everything in our political arena, everything is either based in love or a cry for help, for love, to come back to love. I don't know. This like blew my mind. Let me know in the comments. Like, does this just simplify everything? So I tend to make things very simple these days when I'm doing sound therapy, when I'm singing out healing tones with my voice. I do just intend source energy, source love. Like, to me, that makes sense to just simplify it, because if we don't, then there is certain forms and structures and judgments from the past. Now, if you, even in the awakening journey world and niche, right? New age thought, the light ETs, all those stories across the universe, it's either based in love or a cry for love. That's it. And what's our part to do when there is a cry for love? Well, we just sit back. We ask our higher self, what's mine to do right now in this situation? So a common theme in my life was that I was having a family member kind of lash out and say really hurtful and mean things to me, kind of rip me apart when they were having a hard time. That's not a real loving thing to do. But if I just turn it around and say, that's a cry for love. That's a cry for support. That's a cry for help. That's all it is, right? It's a cry to want to come back to love. And if I can see things as just love or a cry for support, then nothing else means anything. Nothing else has to get to me, right? Nothing else has to get to you. It's either you're feeling the loving vibrations of things, or you're noticing that that person requires support to get back to love. And it may or may not be your job to help or support. And so that's when we go into our inner guidance. What's mine to do here? Nothing? Okay. And you keep checking in every day. Is it mine to do anything here? No, okay. And so not to get triggered or flustered or hurt or angry about those things. And if you do, that's okay too. Because the other thing is that in your own self, if you're not feeling completely loving and at peace when someone comes at you with some judgments, then if you have frustration or anger or trigger, then it's your cry for love, your cry for support. And honestly, the greatest support we can get is with our higher self, is with our source self, Holy Spirit. And so just tuning in, I feel this anger, right? We can say this script to ourselves. I feel this anger. I feel this frustration. I feel this sadness. I feel this whatever. Acknowledge it, really name it, and say it's different than love. And then you acknowledge that that's not who and what you are. It's a misperception. And then you ask Source, can you please heal this misperception? Right? And what if it could be that simple and easy, right? You acknowledge the misperception because that's not who you are. But you feel it, right? You feel it. You feel the hurt. You feel the anger. You feel the sadness. Feel it. But just the thing is, acknowledging and feeling only has to take like 10 seconds. It only has to take like 20 seconds. And anything longer than that is self-abuse, is a perception that perhaps there is some guilt or shame that you need to feel it longer because there's that extra layer of shame and guilt around feeling certain things or doing certain things. So check in with yourself. If you're acknowledging feeling something for 10 to 20 seconds and then you offer it up to Spirit and say, please heal this misperception and help me realize the truth of myself. Let me come back to the truth of love. But you want to hang on and keep attaching your sense of self to that anger. That is a form of self-abuse. It's not bypassing to acknowledge your feelings for 10 seconds, for 20 seconds. That's really all it requires. And so hanging on to it is an attachment issue. But then again, that's my analysis from the past. So you process it as long as you need to. But I just heard about someone who was processing grief for 30 years because they lost their daughter when she was 24. And they've been grieving this daughter for 30 years. And she said, it's not a choice. I'm suffering in this grief. The grief is not who she is. It's either love or a call for love. And so in that grief, there's a real call for love and coming back to home and someone to support her in this complicated grief. And honestly, it's a complication of attachment of identity and an attachment of a life and an expected experience she wanted to have and didn't. And she's having a hard time letting go of that. That's this call for love. So it's interesting because how many times do we want to go into analysis and judgment of situations? It's so easy to do. But really, it's just love or the call to love. And this this has like blown my mind. I have been working through some shadow work for 3 months now, asking for the healing of this misperception, asking for some guidance around this. And this is what came today. Love or cry for love. That's all anything else is. So we can even take a look at politics when we're seeing some awful stuff happening. It's either love or it's a cry for love. And then what's my part to do? And then surrender, let go, do your part, or walk away and just ask what your parts is the next day. And I just love the simplicity of that. So I wanted to just offer that. So if you are feeling a little run down by life, you've got a lot of things hooking you in to the stories, to the pain body, perhaps this simple statement could help you unhook a little bit, right? I know it has for me. So for what it's worth, for what it's worth, may it serve you and create some peace in your reality. And I'll see you next time.